Today's modern cameras have so many different buttons and functions and controls, it's hard to know exactly what button does what. But in today's video, I'm going to show you how you can set up all of those buttons to program them to do exactly what you want to do with your camera. So let's get into it. Okay, so welcome back to the video. My name's Richard and welcome back to my channel. And like I said, today we are going to take a real quick look at how to assign any function you want, or any function the camera allows you to assign to your buttons, so any buttons on the camera. So you're going to have 5, 10, 20, however many buttons you've got on your camera. If you're using a Canon like I am, you can assign certain functions to those buttons, and you want to assign the ones that you use the most so that they're there at your fingertips, ready to go. First thing, why would you want to change the buttons? What's wrong with the defaults? Well, the defaults are pretty good, but they can't cater for how you shoot, the type of photography you do, or the type of or the style that you have, or how you want to shoot. So it's really convenient to be able to change those buttons so that they are easy to press, or they're easy to do what you want them to do. So you may not want that button to do what Canon wants you to do that button to do. So you can change it to do exactly what you want it to do. So I am using my R6 to video this because the video is much better than the 1DX. So I have here a 1DX as an example. Now this star button, if it's focusing, there's a star button here, which is this button on the back here. The default for that is AE lock, which means that you can focus on something, you can lock the exposure in, and when you move the camera around, it won't readjust your exposure because you've locked that exposure in. I don't use that often, so that's a waste of a button for me. I want to use that as something else. So I have programmed my R6, and this one actually, no, sorry, I haven't locked that one. I have programmed my R6 to do something else with that button that suits me, because AE lock doesn't suit me. So that's just one example of how you can set it up so that it works for you and not, it's not one size fits all, that kind of thing. I am going to do a second video on exactly what I use my buttons and my dials for, but in this video we're just going to go through real quick how you make any changes that you want and how you assign your personal preferences to those buttons. So the first thing we need to do is take a look at the menu options in the Canon. So we are gonna do that now. Okay, so let's go into the menu settings, and you need to go along to the orange custom function menu, which is indicated with this camera signal here. You can do this by using the top wheel on your camera, which will take you one option at a time, or you can use the Q button if you want to get there quicker. So when you do get to the custom function menus, you need to go to custom function menu 3, or orange 3 as I like to call it. And there are 4 options here, not including the option to clear the settings. You see I have a blue star next to mine, and that is because I have made changes to the defaults. If you haven't made changes, you should see a simple white dash like you see on these 3 options here. Let's go back to the orange 3 menu. Notice that you can change buttons and dials. And first up, we are going to have a look at the buttons. So pick the customize buttons option, and this will then show you all the buttons on the back of the camera. Now on the R6 there are 2 columns, one to amend the buttons if you are in video mode, but we are just going to concentrate on the photo column for now, and what the buttons do when you are in one of the photography shooting modes. So as you can see, as you scroll down each of the buttons here, you can see the little diagram on the left change to show you the physical position of the button as we scroll. And I'm going to use AE lock as an example. You can see me highlighting the AE lock button on the right, and you can see the button, which button we are physically adjusting in the little diagram on the left, and you're going to press set to change that button. Now in here there are a multitude of options to choose from, and it does take a bit of digging around to find the option that you want, or to discover if the option even exists. But once you have found the one you want, I use IAF, just hit set, and from that point forward that button will be used for that function. Really straightforward to do, but really useful as well. The one thing to look out for, we're just going to go back in here. The one thing to look out for, if you pick a function that has further options to choose from, there will be this info detail set option. Now pressing the info button on the back of your camera will bring up the additional options behind that function for you to choose your preferences, and you can set any of these to how you want that button to perform. For the time being, I am going to leave mine as IAF because that works really well for me, and as I think I might have mentioned, I'm going to do another video into what I've set all my buttons up to what option and why I've done it. But until then, that is how you set up the custom functions on all the buttons on your camera. And now we're going to take a quick look at customizing the dials. So the dials are quite a bit simpler. Let's click on or hit the set button to go into these options. You'll see there are only 3 or 4 dials, and it will depend on what camera you have. But on the R6 there are 3 dials on the camera, and there is a control ring dial. So the 3 dials are at the top front, which you operate with your finger, the top at the back, which you operate with your thumb, right on the back of the camera, which you operate with your thumb again, and I have a lens on that has a control ring on it, which is a ring round the outside of the camera, a bit like a focus ring, but it can adjust different settings as well. So I will first look at the front top dial. You can see really simple, you can do TV mode, AV mode or off. Now these are in manual settings because this is how you assign one of these buttons to that dial. I'm going to leave it on TV or shutter to adjust the shutter. The other dial on top I have set to adjust the aperture. Again, there are lots of different options you can choose from. There's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 here that you can choose from. I'm going to keep it as AV because when I do shoot in manual, I like to be able to change the shutter and the aperture real quickly. And the dial on the back I have set to ISO so that I can change the ISO quickly. I use aperture and the shutter speed are my main ones to determine the exposure, and I use ISO to get the right exposure until such a time I think the ISI gets too high, and then I will look at what other settings I can change, but that is probably a conversation for another video. And we have the control ring here, which has quite a few options in it. You can adjust all these different options, and again it's really just about playing around and seeing which options work for you and which ones you like to use. Some of my lenses don't have control rings, particularly my older EF lenses I'm still using on occasion. So I leave this off because I don't want to confuse things and have or be able to use the control ring with one lens but then not use it for another. So I just leave it off for now until such a time when all of my lenses have control rings, then I may think about using it again. So that is how you assign buttons to, or how you assign functions, sorry, to buttons or dials. The trickiest thing about all of this is working out which buttons you want to assign to what menu option, then finding out if you can even do that. There are some menu options that you can't really do. For example, if you wanted to go straight into format your card, I can't find a button that will take you straight to that option menu. So we are still reliant on going back through the menus and finding the format card option. I have mine set up in custom menu settings anyway, which is another custom function, but again, a conversation for another day. And the last thing, the other tricky thing is sort of establishing what button does what, because some of these options here, as you can see, so many different functions, and what exactly they do is going to be a minefield unless you know your camera inside out. And once you do, great, you can really tailor it. But find out, my advice would be find out the camera settings that you want to use the most and see if that is one of the options. And then the final thing that you have to remember is what button you've assigned to what, but the more you shoot, the more that will become second nature, and you will be able to press those buttons and make changes so quickly you won't even know you're doing it. You'll do it so automatically, it will be sort of eyes closed in your sleep type of thing. So that's it. That is how you set up the menus, the custom functions, and you assign them to either the buttons or the dials depending on your preference. So there we go, explained in my usual eloquent and convoluted way. I hope you found that a little bit useful. I've got to get more streamlined with these tutorials, I know, but practice makes perfect. So if you found that useful, why not give us a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and I look forward to the next video, which will hopefully be a little bit better, and do all the usual things, like, comment, share, subscribe. Thanks for watching. I will see you in the next video. Take care.